All right, welcome everybody. Today is February 2nd, 2022. You are here for the CalTAP webinar, Discovering New Careers, in partnership with West Hills College Lemoore. So before we start, some housekeeping. You may have received an email either last night or sometime this morning or sometime before the webinar actually that had information about this meeting, the Zoom link. It also had a couple links in there for the resource book, which I'll talk about in a quick second. And then there was also a link for a PDF copy of the link map, which we'll talk a little bit more about also. We have a representative here from Work for Warriors who will talk to you about how they work with veterans across California. You'll also hear from your local interagency network coordinator, who is part of CalVet, and she'll talk to you about how they work with veterans as well. But before we do that, we'll start off with a little introduction about the CalTAP program and some of the benefits that are available to you. And then at the very end, we'll have a questions and answers panel where you can ask any questions that you have for the panelists, and they'll answer them. So on top of that Q&A portion at the end of the webinar, we'll also have the Q&A tab open for questions for the panelists as the webinar goes on. So instead of using the chat, we actually disabled the chat because we're going to be flooding the chat with resources that you can download, like that resource book or the link map. And so we don't want your questions to get lost in those resources. So we're asking that you do ask them on that Q&A section. This is just on the screen right here are instructions on how to use that Q&A portion. Panelists can go through and answer the questions right away, or we'll hold them to answer them at the end of the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Michael Cisneros. I am a training coordinator with the California Department of Veteran Affairs. I work with the CalTAP program, and I'm just going to give you a quick overview on what we're all about. So what is CalTAP? It's a transition assistance program that's designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their earned state and federal benefits, as well as provide continuous support and assistance as their needs change over time. And so what we've done is we've created different pathways that help veterans navigate those resources and the benefits that are available to them. Those pathways are an entrepreneurship pathway, we have an employment pathway, an education pathway, and then there's a general core curriculum pathway of benefits that don't fit into those topics that I just mentioned. There is a fifth pathway. It's a service provider pathway. We don't talk about that too much, but if you do know anybody within your community or have a family member that wants to work with veterans, feel free to send them to our website to check out some of the content. Has information on how to actually work with the veteran community, how to understand their experiences, and stuff like that, just to make you an all-around better service provider for our community. This is that veteran resource book that I mentioned earlier. So you should have received a link in your email that has a PDF copy to this book. I like to say that this book is like gold for veterans. Anything that we discussed today when it comes to California benefits through CalVet or through the VA can be found in this book. They'll also let you know eligibility requirements. They'll let you know, the steps, step by step, and how to get the processes started and who you should be talking to about those processes. So definitely take a look at it, read through it. You could download the book onto your phone, or you could download it onto your laptop or desktop, and just pop it open whenever you have questions. And on the back of the book is a 1-800 number that you can give a call and we will answer. All right, now you can find information about the CalTAP program on our website, calvet.ca.gov. Right there in the middle of the screen, you'll find that CalTAP banner. You click on that banner and it will take you to our pathways page. I mentioned earlier, we have the education, entrepreneurship, employment pathway right here. Before we move on, I want to bring your attention though to the archives link down there at the bottom. So when we started doing the webinars back when the pandemic first started, we started recording them and posting them onto our website along with the PowerPoints. So if you're curious about what we've already covered, some of the resources out there that we've already talked about, or you just want to know more about the CalTAP program and what we've been doing over the last couple of years, feel free to check out that archive link. I believe we're going to put a link to that page in the chat as well. So definitely take a look at it and start collecting those resources that you can use outside. So how do you use CalTAP online though? So if you are on our pathways page, we'll use, for this example, we'll use a core curriculum. You'll just click on any one of those pathways. With the core curriculum pathway, you're taken to a modules page that looks like this. You'll find information about the VA healthcare system on the core curriculum pathway. You'll find information about financial literacy, claims and compensation, protecting your benefits. But if you're just curious about what actually is out there for you, you can always click on that module 5, California benefits, and that will break it down into more details. So what are those California benefits? What are the benefits that I'm talking about? One of the main ones, and I like to think that this is a pretty good deal for veterans here in California, is our outreach specialists. They're actually called local interagency outreach coordinators, or links for short. There's a link in different areas or different regions of California. They're familiar with the outside resources in your community. And you can kind of think of them as the liaison between those outside resources and the veteran. So, we have Annette on here who will come on right after I talk, and she will tell you a little bit more about how she works with veterans. But it's a really good benefit, a really good deal. On top of that outreach, we have a fee waiver. This is one of the most popular benefits that CalVet has to offer. It's a fee waiver for child dependents, so it's not actually for the veteran. We are hoping that the veteran can use their own education benefits and not have to worry about transferring them to their dependents to send their dependents to school. So this fee waiver is strictly for dependents. There's 4 different plans. If you are eligible for plan A, C, or D, there may be a chance that you can actually let your spouse use this benefit. But for the most part, we find more veterans fall into plan B, which does require a veteran to have a disability rating between 0 and 100. And on top of that, they are looking at the child's income level. If you have any other questions about some of those other plans, feel free to reach out to me or ask at the end. We could talk a little bit more about them. But for the most part, we see more veterans fall into plan B. Just covers tuition and fees, only tuition and fees at all UC, CSUs, or California community colleges, so any state-funded schools. We have programs that make programs with the DMV that make it easier for individuals to identify as a veteran. So now you can actually get the word veteran printed on your driver's license. This just makes it so that you don't have to walk around with sensitive information in your back pocket, like the information that can be found on your DD Form 214. There's also the Honoring Veterans License Plate Program. This is actually open to all residents of California, not just veterans. All proceeds for this program actually go to County Veteran Service or Veteran Services across California. And this is just you could actually get like an insignia or a logo or a medal on your license plate, just to show support for the veteran community or the military community. And then there's a motor vehicle registration fee waiver. This is open for veterans who have 100% disability rating. Your disability also has to affect mobility. If you think that this is something that you are eligible for, we definitely recommend reaching out to your local county veteran service office, and they could get the process started for you. This is just an example of what some of those programs look like. So if you look at the driver's license, you can actually see the word veteran printed right there underneath or above the sex, height, hair, weight. You could use that at any place that gives veteran discounts or any place that you need to prove your veteran status. It's good enough for that. And then if you look at the license plate picture underneath, that's what I'm talking about. When you get that, you can actually get something on your license plate, a picture of a medal or an insignia, something like that. I believe that's the Vietnam era medal that's right there. So just kind of an example of what you see when you do that Honorary Veterans License Plate Program. For those individuals that like to be outdoors, we have a hunting and fishing license offered at a reduced annual cost. And there's also a state park pass that's offered for free, no cost to the veteran. Both of these benefits do require 50% disability rating or higher, and an honorable discharge. And I believe with the state park pass, you would have had to have been serving within a wartime period. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to your county veteran service office, or you can simply go to, I believe it's wildlife.ca.gov and parks.ca.gov. Tax programs. We have tax programs for our disabled veterans who want to open up their own business or are looking for properties tax exemptions. We don't talk too much about the tax programs only because they do differ across eligibility requirements differ across California. So if you are interested in the tax programs, we recommend you reaching out to your local county tax assessor, and they can tell you more about eligibility requirements and how to get those processes started. If you are curious about where or how to reach your local county tax assessor, the Board of Equalization website has a list. So you find your county and reach out to that assessor, and they should be able to help you out. Homes, Calvet home loans. So this is different than our federal VA home loan program. Calvet has a home loan program that provides financing for veterans, competitive market interest rates, and requires low or no down payment. We have somebody who usually talks about this program on the webinars with us. He's not here today, but we'll look into putting his contact information into the chat. So for those of you that are in the market right now or are curious to know what the difference is between our home loans program and the federal VA home loans program, we recommend reaching out to Brad Pedersen, and he could definitely answer those questions for you. Our women veterans, we have a program that provides information, advocacy, outreach, and support. This program is also partnered with the California Veterans Leadership Council. It's just there to give our women veterans more opportunity within their community, understand what's going on with the Calvet Women Division, and tell you more about outreach opportunities coming up. So you can find more information about the Women Veterans Division on our website at calvet.ca.gov. They also have a roster you can sign up on. This is just so that you can kind of stay up to date with what's going on with the division, some of the news that's coming out of the division, and features women veterans. And for our minority veterans, we also have a program that provides information, advocacy, outreach, and support. This program also helps our unnaturalized veterans with citizenship and naturalization services. And so you can find more information about their division at the Minority and Underrepresented Veterans webpage at calvet.ca.gov. They too have a roster that you could put your name on. If you're kind of curious about what's going on, what's coming out of the division, what kind of webinars are they going to be hosting soon, you could always sign up right there. Homes for long-term care. We have 8 different homes that provide long-term care for veterans. They offer medical, dental, pharmacy, rehabilitation, and social activities. The houses are everywhere from Chula Vista down south to Redding up north. And each location is going to focus on some kind of service. So whether that's in-home care, I'm sorry, not in-home care, but memory care, hospice, assisted living, those sorts of things. Each location will focus on a different kind of service. And for our state cemeteries, we have, you're probably not thinking about state cemeteries or homes for long-term care right now. But if you have anybody within your community or family members that are veterans that need services like this, on top of the homes for long-term care, there's also the state cemeteries. These are different than the federal VA cemeteries. There are 3 different ones here in California and the 4th one in the works. There's one in Seaside, California, which is right outside of Monterey. There's another one in Redding, California. And then the Yountville Veterans Home Cemetery, which is right outside of Napa. Now, for that last one, you do have to be a resident at the Yountville Veterans Home to be buried there. So if that's not your situation, you have the other 2 to choose from. And the 4th one that's in the works, I believe it's going to be in Orange County, somewhere down south. Don't have too many details about that one, but just be aware that there will be a 4th one coming in Southern California. All All right. Now, before I hand it off to our link, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of websites that we think you should be familiar with as a veteran. The first one is va.gov. I like to think of va.gov as like a hub for veterans. So if you're looking for information about the healthcare system, VA healthcare system, or trying to file disability claims of compensation, need to check out your records, or even apply for your education benefits, you'll come to this website and it will direct you to where you need to go and how to get those started. There's also e-benefits. I've heard that they're going to start phasing out e-benefits, but this is a cool website for those of you that are taking advantage of your benefits. You can actually come here to apply, to check the status of payments, and see what's going on. Basically, when I was in school, I was checking out this website every semester to see if they've certified the classes that I was taking, if they've cut the BAH, the check that I was needing every month. So this is where you'll find that information out. And then finally, there's My Healthy Vet. It's a cool website if you are taking advantage of the VA healthcare system. On this website, you can actually view your healthcare records, communicate with your primary care physician, and refill prescriptions. All right, so if you want to continue getting updates from CalVet or CalTAP and kind of be aware of what's going on within the division and what kind of webinars we'll be posting soon or conducting, feel free to send your email with your non-DOD address to CalTAP at calvet.ca.gov. That's just gonna, that will give us your email. We could put you on a mailing list. If you don't want to do that, you can also fill out our webinar survey, our post-webinar survey. We'll put a link in the chat for that. You've also been emailed the post-webinar survey. One thing about that survey, it's not required. You don't have to do it. But if you decide that you want to do it, it's going to help us out a lot. Lets us know what we did well today, what we could work on in the future. Lets us know what kind of topics you want to hear about for the future. And on top of that, we also get that non-DOD email so we can stay in touch with you. You can also go to our homepage and sign up on the My CalVet portion, or like us on Facebook and continue attending our webinars. This is the My CalVet login and registration link on our website. You can find this on every single page and register there. This is the newsletter I mentioned. So every month we focus on a topic. This month we are focusing on education. We send out a newsletter that gives you, has a letter from our deputy secretary, and also has information about the upcoming webinars and some resources we think you might want to check out that focus on the topic of that month. All right, so quick overview about the program. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. That's my email address. I check it daily. If you're not email savvy, you can also dial that 1-800 number that will direct you to either my phone or Sean Campbell, who's also on this webinar, or any one of the other training coordinators that I work with. We'll answer that and we'll be able to answer your questions as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on now to Annette. Annette is the local interagency network coordinator for the Central Valley region, and she's going to talk to you about how she works with veterans across her area. So go ahead, Annette, when you're ready.
No, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annette Walliver. I am the local interagency network coordinator, and that's a mouthful. We're known as LINKS, but basically what I am is a field agent for the state of California. Actually one of 8. Next slide, please. So you can see by this map, CalVet has divided the state into 8 regions. Each color is a region with a coordinating link. I'm the one in the middle, Stanislaus to Kern counties. I'm the purple one. I'm on the 99 all the time when I'm doing my outreach. And I'm probably the only link who can put a destination in my GPS and it says go straight for 150 miles. As links, we work collectively because we know the state and federal agencies that are available to you as benefits. But we also work within our own regions to develop our augmented or auxiliary services, I say, so that we can better serve our veterans. Next slide, please. So we provide outreach to service members, veterans, and their families. current and prior military service members. So we go into DoD installations. I go to Lemoore Naval Air Station to let active duty members know what they're eligible for even before they separate. We go to community colleges because many times they're recently separated veterans. And then we make referrals and work directly with established service provider networks. So by working with our collaboratives, our veterans employment committees, hold on just a moment. We're able to get those resources veterans are entitled to. And then we assist with local emergencies. We're very involved, CalTAP, calvet, with the victims of the forest fires here in California. Last year, I was actually deployed to the Tulare County Local Assistance Center to help veterans from the SQF fires. And in some cases, not only did they lose their properties, but also their paperwork. And that DD Form 214 is a very valuable piece. It gets you the benefits that you need. So by working with the County Veteran Service Office, we were able to get copies of the DD Form 214, and then also with our CalVet home loan agent, get certificates of eligibility so they can go forward with their VA or CalVet home loans. And if they had a CalVet home loan, assist them with the paperwork that they needed, their insurance paperwork. Currently, the 8 of us, the links, are assisting headquarters by taking those numbers that go into 1-800-CalVet. So if there's a question that comes from Klamath Falls or San Diego, because I know the state and federal agencies, I'm able to assist them. If we need to dive deeper into that resource pool, I contact their link. So they're the experts in that area and can assist them with getting the information they need. And then we provide leadership and advocacy to local communities. By staying in touch with our collaboratives, our networks, we ensure that they're informed of the benefits, any changes to benefits, but also if there's any gap in benefits, we can forward that to our headquarters. Next slide, please. And so getting connected to your benefits, I am the poster child for getting connected to your benefits. I served in the United States Army from 1975 to 1978. I used my GI Bill, got my degree, got my VA home loan, and I thought that's pretty much it. I didn't realize until 12 years ago, when I started working for the state of California, I'm eligible for additional benefits. I filed for compensation, and so I have a service-connected disability, which leads to additional benefits. I'm enrolled in VA healthcare. So a lot of the benefits that we have eligible to us don't expire. So you may not need them now, but you might need them later. So employment and training, EDD, Employment Development Department, have dedicated staff that work solely with veterans to get them connected with employment opportunities, whether it's resumes, whether it's interview skills, or just getting them connected directly to employers. And then they are co-located in the America's Job Center of California. These AJCCs on onecareerstop.com, they can show you where they're located. They have the tools that you can use at no cost to you, whether it's printers, scanners, copiers. Take advantage of them. You can apply for your veterans preference points, unemployment, and paid family leave, disability. California state benefits, well, that's what we're all about at CalVet. And every state has different benefits and different eligibilities. And it's the County Veteran Service Office. These are the boots on the ground, as I say. They administer a lot of the benefits, whether it's federal or state. So if it's filing for compensation, because they do 50% of the claims in the state of California, they do this day in and day out, they know what they're doing. Your tuition fee waiver, DMV, they're there for you. And then healthcare, we must be mindful of our healthcare during this time. The VA medical centers and clerks and vet centers are there for you. If you want to enroll in VA healthcare, you can do it online or actually just call them and ask for eligibility. They can probably do it over the phone. I know all of my appointments have been through telehealth and VA healthcare. So it's been actually very convenient for me. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information. Please call me if you have any questions about anything. I'm there for you. I'm a service-connected United States Army veteran. So definitely, I know these resources. I deal with them day in and day out. And thank you for your service and thank you for being here today.
Great. All right. Thank you, Annette. Great resource right there. Please do not hesitate to reach out. And they could definitely direct you to outside resources available to veterans. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Sean Campbell. Sean is a training coordinator like me with the CalTAP with CalTAP, and he's going to talk to you about the California employment landscape and how to get a state job. So go ahead when you're ready, Sean.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Sean Campbell, and I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about working with the state of California, how to get a state job, and we're going to talk about some of the different benefits and opportunities that are out there for you. Next slide, please. As you can see from our CalTAP website, which is calvet.ca.gov is the actual web portal. And then from the CalTAP landing page, it'll take you right here. As my counterpart said before, there's a lot of different pathways. There's 5 different pathways. We're going to talk about the employment pathway today. And in the upper right-hand corner, you can also see where you can register for My Calvet. As my teammate said earlier, we do prefer to choose a non-DoD email address because we want to be able to contact you. And also, it's just a good way to make sure that you can get more information about benefits that are specifically that you've earned. Thank you. Next slide, please. When you are looking into the employment pathway, the awesome thing is that these are self-paced learning modules. They've got videos, they've got PDFs. It's just chock full of information and videos that you can explore at your own pace. Some of the stuff is about state employment, some of it's about federal employment. What does a job search look like? And also some of the different interviewing techniques that are out there. Next slide, please. If you look at the California labor market, this slide just gives a snapshot of what the EDD says are some of the fastest growing occupations out there. And sometimes we have to stop and ask ourselves, what do we want to do? You know, what makes you smile? Being out of the workforce during your contracted service time, or if you've been out of the workforce because of COVID-19, there's a lot of changes. And how do we adapt to those changes? How does the labor market looking for employees now? Next slide, please. So one of the best things that you can do in the beginning is just really take that moment to prepare to apply. Get yourself a master resume and create a target resume as well. So you have those 2 different things. When we talk about matching terminology, a lot of the tools employers are using now to look at resumes and applications, they're looking for those specific keywords. So if you see the keywords listed in that job posting, those are the keywords that you really want to put in your applications out there. And knowing that federal resumes are a little different than if you're applying for a state job, they're going to be different for state and federal. Also, take a moment to figure out whether or not the agency that you're applying for or the job that you're applying for, do they give veterans preference? Do they give veterans preference points? Next. Next slide, please. Make sure you take that moment to think long-term. The higher you rank, the more you may need to make some specific adjustments. Consider the competitiveness of the market that you're in right now, especially with all the changes from the pandemic. And relocating sometimes might be something that you want to consider, just leaving that option on the table. Don't get discouraged. Putting in for jobs is something that can be sometimes discouraging, and we want to encourage you to stay motivated about it because you will find your place. You've worked hard to get where you're at now, and we're here to help you continue to move that effort forward. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about state and federal employment specifically. Next slide. Federal employment. So let's zoom in on that one a little bit. The Office of Personnel Management estimates that there's like over 2 million federal civilian employees. That's a lot. I did a search earlier this morning before we started this webinar, and just in California today, there's 2,892 jobs that are available and open. So there's plenty of opportunities out there for you if you want them. The first step is to go to login.gov and actually create that federal account, and USA Jobs will have that, will also be there for you to create a profile. And with those together, you'll start searching for those jobs. You'll review the job announcements that are out there, and this web portal will give you a chance to prepare your application to load it into USA Jobs. You'll get an opportunity to submit applications to different agencies, and then the agencies are going to review the applications, put you in for that interview. As we said before, take that moment to look at those job postings and make sure that the terminology that you're coming up with on your applications is matching the terminology that they're putting out there for those jobs. Next slide, please. Federal veterans preference. So this is something that can be kind of difficult to understand because the rules are expansive. There's Gold Star, there's restrictions for retirees that are 04 and above. There's campaigns, there's war medals, there's Gulf War preference. There's so much stuff out there. So we just make sure that you really take that extra moment to look at what veterans preference points are available for you and look into that veterans recruitment appointment. Next slide, please. If you look here, if you go to Feds Hire Vets and you look under where it says veterans preference, it'll give you some more specific details about how to fill out specifically this form for veterans preference. And then once you turn it in, you want to confirm that your paperwork's been properly completed. 31% of the federal workforce are veterans. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and they want to make sure you put your best foot forward in to put that application forward. Thank you. Next slide, please. Some excellent resources available to help you out. U.S. Department of Labor, Career One Stop, Resume Engine. Military Skills Translator is one of the tools that are out there that a lot of my counterparts really recommend because it's something that'll help us take the verbiage and terminology that we've kind of integrated into ourselves being veterans and translate that into what the people who are putting out the jobs and the applications, the hiring forces out there, what they want to hear. And then verification of military experience and training. VMET, that's another great one. So that way, all the certifications and training that you earned while you are on active duty, we can get a way to find the best way to translate that into the civilian sector. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit now about employment with the state of California. Next slide, please. Why work for the state of California? California is actually, surprise, surprise, the largest employer in the state of California. There's over 150 agencies and state departments. Again, I went on to the state's website before this webinar, and there's 4,355 jobs available right now. Just a wide number of jobs and multiple geographic locations. It's 58 counties throughout the state of California, lots of different places to work for, and there's great salaries and benefit packages. Additionally, there's a lot of stability that comes from working with the state. Once you are employed with the state, there's a lot of opportunities for growth, a lot of opportunities for expansion, a lot of opportunities to increase your knowledge pool by working with other departments and other divisions as well. So it's just a great place to work and to grow and expand your skill set. Next slide, please. They talk about different benefits, savings plans, CalPERS pensions, comprehensive health, dental, vision, employee assistance program, paid training. My personal favorite, I never realized that there was 11 holidays that the state of California recognizes and pays for. So that's kind of nice. I really like that. 11's a lot. And there's a lot of different, the health and dental and vision it's something that you deserve to have for yourself. And California is going to provide those things as an employer. Not every employer is going to provide that for you. Next slide, please. Sick leave. This one's specific to military veterans, and this law grants basically state employees, if you had a service-connected disability before when you get hired on, you're eligible for 96 hours of sick leave for eligible veterans who meet that criteria. Next slide, please. And again, it's more paid time off for you to take care of those things. How to get started. First thing you want to do is create a profile. This one says jobs.ca.gov. There's a couple, this is one of the main websites to drive you towards that, towards the main web portal. And on the next slide, it's going to show you what that main web portal looks like. You can see here in the upper right-hand corner where you'll go to create an account and log in. Make sure that you're using a professional email address. Don't use something like I hate marshmallows 55. Make sure you have a professional, your first name, last name. This is going to go to different agencies that you apply for. So you'll also get a ID number. So that way it'll be able to link all your information together. Next slide, please. Veterans preference. Veterans preference will automatically be added to top rank civil service examinations. And what this basically means is that veterans who've been honorably discharged from the United States can apply for this veterans preference. And once you applied and you're eligible and you are awarded veterans preference, it just means that when there's a civil service examination, you'll be added to the top of that rank. That's what it basically does. It's not a guarantee that it's not like an automatic job guarantee, but if there is an examination, it'll put you at the top. So that way it just helps you get your best foot forward and into the door a lot faster. Next slide, please. From the website, you can see here how to navigate to that landing page as well to bring you towards where the veterans section is to get more information about that veterans preference. This is what the form looks like. And as I said with the federal one, make sure that you take that extra moment to make sure that this is filled out correctly, that they received it, and that on your account, it'll actually show you that you have been awarded those points. And if you haven't, then you want to make sure that you contact the HR department so that way you get awarded those points. Next slide, please. Searching for vacancies. So let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to actually look for a job using this web portal. There are 58 different counties, as I said before, thousands of different positions. Don't be fixated on one thing. Think outside the box. Put some different criteria in there when you're looking for eligibility for different jobs. There's a lot of great resources. Next slide, please. This one right here shows a couple of different positions. You can see on the right side where it says the final filing deadline. That's something you really want to be cognizant of because it's going to let you know the end date. If you're submitting applications after the end date, they're not going to take them. You can also see the title of the actual position, the working title, what department it's going to be for, the date the actual job posting was published, what the location is. And then if you click on where it says view job posting, it'll drive you to the actual job posting itself. Next slide, please. So this is what a job posting will look like. It's going to give you a lot of really good information. It's going to give you a description of the job. It's going to give you some of the basic duties. It's going to have some verbiage and terminology further down for the different duty statements that are out there. And you can see highlighted here is the actual duty statement. The duty statement, go ahead and show me the next slide, please. The duty statement is going to break everything down into basically percentages. So 50% of the job is grab it and oar, 20% is putting your back into it and rowing the boat, and 10% of the job is beating on the drum to make sure everyone's going at the same time. It's just going to break down stage by stage what the different percentages of the actual job are. 20% of the job might be drinking coffee and hanging out with your buddies. Every job is going to be different, but you want to make sure to understand what those duty statements are, because this is what's going to be the actual task of the job. And when you're applying for these different positions, this is the same terminology that you want to use in your statement of qualifications and in your application. Next slide, please. It's highlighted where you see apply now, pretty straightforward. But once you hit that apply now, it's going to drive you to this next page where you're going to talk about eligibility. Are you eligible for this job? Can I apply for this job? And if you already have eligibility because you've already taken an exam that's necessary for the job, or there is no specific examination, maybe it's an office technician job, and there's no specific eligibility, you would do I have eligibility. And if you want eligibility, so you want to be able to take that test that they need you to take, you click on I want to obtain eligibility, which is highlighted here. Searching and taking examinations, just like anything else, you want to make sure that you give yourself a quiet space, give yourself some time, plan it out ahead. Don't just jump in and go, hey, I'm ready to take the test. Sit down and get some water, get some coffee, give yourself some paper and some notes, and then you can actually sit down and take that examination, because they're going to ask you a wide variety of questions, and you want to be ready and put your best foot forward, so that way you can get the highest score possible on the examinations. Some of the examinations are going to be skill-based, so you want to make sure that you are giving them good information and that you're not shorting yourself and forgetting some of the skills that you may have done in the past. So it's always good to like create that list of, hey, these are all the things I've done in the past before you jump into taking one of those examinations. Next slide, please. A process to your evaluation. They're going to ask you about your education. They're going to ask you about experience. They're going to ask you about knowledge, skills, and ability. Again, this is just a great moment to make sure that before you take the test, you sit down and you write out some of the different jobs and different skills and different tasks that you've performed. And this is another reason that having networking with those other resources we talked about, like the military skills translator, that's why those things are so great, because it'll help empower you with all of those tools in the beginning before you sit down and take the test. So you already have a good mindset of what you want to put down there. Next slide, please. Some different types and methods of examinations you're going to see. Online examination, it's probably going to be the most common one. Qualifications appraisal panel. This is an oral interview panel of interviewers who are going to ask you a certain pattern of questions. Some of these are going to be on Zoom or internet. Some of them will be in person. Written examination. This is kind of old school, where they're going to ask you a bunch of questions and it'll be timed. Supplemental exam, where the candidate completes a set of questions relative to your experience. They're going to ask you, have you done this list of tasks? And they'll give you a list of tasks, and you say, yes, I've done this, I've done that. Yes, no. And then education experience, where they're looking at your background, your history, and your work skills and training. Next slide, please. This just gives you an example of some of the different classifications and the different school levels and training for some of the different classifications for jobs that are out there. If you have a high school graduate, bachelor's degree, or 2-year degree, you just take a look at this, and obviously in the job postings, it'll go over this information as well. But this is just a good snapshot of what's out there. Next slide, please. Entry-level exams to take: office assistant, office technician, staff service analyst. These are just different, you can almost think of them like different job titles. It's like E1, E2, E3, just different just job titles, different classifications for different workloads that are out there. The state of California is a huge employer, and there's just a lot of different job titles that are out there. Next slide, please. Once you are completed taking one of those online examinations, it's going to score you right away, and you'll get your results without delay. These results do expire, and some of them are 6 months, some of them are a year. So make sure that if you've taken this in the past, like maybe you took it a couple years ago, make sure you go back and double check and look at when the expiration dates are, because you'll probably have to do it again. It's usually like 6 months to a year that some of these tests will have to be taken over again. Next slide. This is a list of some of the different active eligibilities that people might have: department promotional, staff services managers. So these are the class titles for different eligibility from different examinations that they took. So once you're done with that examination, it's going to populate in your field on the CalCareers website, and you'll see what you passed and what class titles you're eligible to apply for. Next slide, please. So once you have eligibility, now you're going to apply for the job. And it's highlighted on the slide here to apply for a job. Next slide, please. It sounds pretty straightforward, but you want to make sure that you have eligibility before you apply for the job. This is an example of the standard form that the state of California uses when you're applying for employment. I assume in the old days, they all did it by hand. It's all digital nowadays. So once you type in all this information, it'll auto-populate when you're doing the next application and the next application. So make sure that you're not making any mistakes. Make sure that you are giving good phone numbers to prior employers. Make sure that your dates and times are accurate, because if you make one mistake, it's gonna flash across your all the applications that you do. So don't be afraid to go back and double check your work as well. Next slide, please. Statement of qualifications. A statement of qualifications is probably, I know for me, it was one of the things that was a little bit challenging, because it's going to ask you a few key questions that the employer, that the agency wants to know about. And the thing about the statement of qualifications is it's kind of small there, but it says see instructions below. It is absolutely imperative that you take that moment and read the statement of qualifications. I used to actually write them down, because I recognize that there would always be just some little change. Like the first one would be that they wanted it in Arial 11 font. And then the next one would be Arial 12 font. And if you're not following those instructions specifically, they're going to disqualify you. It's just that way to make sure that people are really reading the instructions and paying attention to detail, because that's probably the most important thing that you can do when you're looking for jobs like this, is that have that inquisitive mindset, and they want to see that you're looking for those instructions and for the changes in instructions as well. Next slide, please. When you're filling out that statement of qualifications, make sure that you're looking into the different terminology that we talked about before, and take that time to study the job announcement and the duty statement. If you're applying for a specific department, go to that department's website, look at their mission statement, look at what is their vision as an organization. Make sure you take that time to look into their website and look at their Facebook page. So when you go into that hiring interview, you've got that knowledge on top of what you're going into. Take that moment to relate your experience and knowledge that you've earned and worked hard for to the essential job duties that you saw on that job duty statement, and make sure that you're translating that into the right terminology when you're answering these questions for the statement of qualifications. It says here, read all applications instructions. I'm a big fan of writing them down, because when you write them down, it's just that much more clear. Next slide, please. In summary, creating a master resume and a target resume, something that's going to give you, put you leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. Take that time to apply for veterans preference, whether it's state, federal, and if it's a civilian job as well, take a moment to ask them, do they give a veterans preference, and work with the information they feed back to you. Take any necessary examinations for the state of California to make sure that you have that eligibility, and apply for those job vacancies. There's a lot of them out there. As I said before, 4,355 as of today, and participate in the hiring interview. Participating in a hiring interview, go online. Make sure that you, before you have that interview, make sure that you log in an hour before that with one of your buddies. Make sure that your camera's working. Have them give you feedback on your background to make sure it looks professional. Make sure you have a tie. Make sure that you are giving them 110%. Don't just wear a tie and a shirt and not wear pants or shoes, because you want to come to the game and bring 110%. Next slide, please. The resources that we talked about earlier, edbjobs.ca.gov, usajobs.gov. This is just a great list of them, and my teammate's going to put this list in the chat as well. Next slide, please. In the Veterans Resource Book, there's an excellent section on employment, and you can see here, it's just something that's great to go over when you're looking for those state and federal jobs, and when you're talking about veterans preference. It's going to give you some more details and some more information on that as well, how to get that eligibility going. Next slide, please. Here's my contact information. Whatever questions you may have, by all means, don't hesitate to send me an email. I'm happy to answer whatever I can for you. And I just want to take another moment to thank you, Michael, for having me in here today.
Of course, yeah. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate that information. Step-by-step information on how to get that state job. So if you missed any of those steps, please feel free to reach out to Sean or dial that 1-800 number. Or you can even reach out to me. We can definitely walk you through it. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to our last guest, Greg Philibrown. He's from Work for Warriors. He's going to talk to you about how they work with veterans across California and finding employment. When you're ready, Greg, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Michael. My name is Greg Philibrown, and I'm a staffing consultant with Work for Warriors. And we essentially help veterans and their family members, including Gold Star family members, with employment services, anywhere from resume writing, resume building, and interview preparation. All right, go ahead and next slide. Our mission is to reduce candidate unemployment and underemployment. So just because we'll help you even if you're, let's just say you're not happy with your current employer, and you're just looking for a new place to find employment, we can help you with that. We have I think we're close to 3,000 different jobs on our job board, and over 200 employers that you can browse on our website and take a look at that. We help improve candidates' quality of life. And then who's eligible: transitioning active duty service members, California Guardsmen, Army, Air, and State, veterans and retirees, California's disaster survivors, California's at-risk youth, and family members of all of the above. For example, we're dealing with when the fires happened, we were helping those folks that were affected by the fires. We were helping them with employment. And right now we're going through the whole COVID-19 era. So we're helping those folks as well. Go next slide. How can we help? We're a direct placement model that mirrors a corporate staffing firm. As I mentioned, we will help with resume critique and writing tips, interview preparation and practice, recommendations and referrals with our partners, social image workshops, and industry-specific workshops and training, and hiring events. This week, actually starting last Thursday, I had a veteran who had an interview with the U.S. Marshals, and for about 3 days, I sat down with him and went over interview techniques and questions that may be asked. So, he was nice and ready for his interview, which he had this morning. Go ahead, next slide. Where can we help? We cover all of California. We have 3 staffed physical locations. We work remotely and virtually, and we assist the entire state. And our headquarters is in Sacramento, and then our other 2 locations, San Diego and Los Alamitos. Go ahead, next slide. As you can see, these are some of our employers, which we call these are our employers, which are essentially our partners. Tesla, 511, Centus, Aramark, Starbucks. I mean, you name it. We have so many different employers. And you can go to our website, workforwarriors.org. You can do a geographical search or a search of a company that you might be interested in, and more than likely the jobs will show. The next slide. Unique opportunities: state active duty, SAD, with the California Military Department. Work for the state of California, get your federal rank pay rate and BAH untaxed. Opportunities throughout the state. Eligible for CalPERS benefits. Requires a CMD membership, which includes California Army National Guard, California Air National Guard, and California State Guard. Next slide. You can connect with us on Work for Warriors. You can connect with Work for Warriors on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Next slide. And I will post my information, my direct cell phone number, into the chat. And once again, my name is Greg. Just feel free to contact me if you need assistance with anything from the resume writing, resume critique, interview preparation, or if you need assistance finding a job. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. Appreciate you helping us out with this today. Good service for those veterans out there who are having a hard time finding employment or just need help improving their resume writing or interview skills. With that, let's go ahead and move on now to our questions and answers portion of the webinar. Contact information for each speaker is up, along with a QR code for the post-webinar survey, just in case you do want to take that and let us know how we did today. Like I said before, it's not necessary, it's not required, but if you did want to, it is there. We also emailed it to you as well. Sean, how is the chat looking, or the questions? Are there any for any of the panelists?
No, not at this time. There's no questions.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next slide. We'll keep the channel open just in case we do get a question while I talk about the upcoming webinars. We are going to be, like I said in the beginning of the webinar, we are focusing on education this month. So we do have a webinar coming up on the 8th that's going to talk about the fee waiver. We'll have a webinar that's going to talk about navigating the stressors of distance learning. So I know for most of you, if not all of you, are back in distance learning right now because of the new variant. I'm sure that will change, or we'll find something's going to come up later on down the line. So we have a webinar that is going to help you deal with those stressors of going back to online learning. And then also we'll talk about education benefits, maximizing those benefits. And then on the 22nd, we will have a representative from the Veterans Readiness and Employment Program, which used to be VOC Rehab, Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment. So please feel free to stop by our Eventbrite page and register for either one of those webinars and see what kind of resources we have for you. If there are still no questions, then I want to thank you guys all for being here today. Thank you, Annette and Greg, for helping us out with this event. And we will see you guys at the next one. Have a good day.
Thanks, Michael. You too.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, cool. I'm gonna stop recording.